Step into the mind of Edgar Allan Poe, where obsession twists into madness and the macabre dances with the unknown. These are the tales that defined horror itself. Prepare yourself for a journey into the darkest corners of imagination. The Masque of the Red Death, Poe's Plague of Terror. What happens when you try to lock out death? Edgar Allan Poe's The Masque of the Red Death, published in 1842, explores the grim inevitability of mortality. A devastating plague known as the Red Death sweeps through the land, causing victims to bleed from their pores and die in agony. Prince Prospero, indifferent to the suffering outside his palace, invites his wealthy friends to a grand masquerade ball in his fortified abbey. They revel in luxury, convinced they've escaped the horrors of the world. The ball unfolds in a series of bizarre, color-coded rooms, culminating in a sinister black chamber illuminated by a blood-red light. At the stroke of midnight, an uninvited guest appears, draped in funeral garb and oozing blood. Enraged, Prospero confronts the figure, only to collapse as blood gushes from his face. The Red Death has claimed him. The other guests seize the intruder, but there's no one inside the costume. One by one, they succumb to the plague. By dawn, the abbey is silent, the Red Death triumphant. Poe likely drew inspiration from the cholera epidemic of 1832, which killed thousands, including one of his closest friends. In Baltimore alone, over 850 people perished. Meanwhile, a macabre masquerade ball in Paris, where a guest arrived dressed as the personification of cholera, may have planted the seed for Poe's chilling tale. The Masque of the Red Death is more than a horror story. It's a haunting reminder that no wealth, power, or fortress can shield us from the inevitability of death. William Wilson, Poe's tale of guilt and the double life. What if your greatest enemy was yourself? Edgar Allan Poe's William Wilson, published in 1839, dives into the battle between conscience and temptation, personified by a mysterious doppelganger. The story begins at a British boarding school, where a boy named William Wilson meets another student who looks exactly like him, shares his birthday, and, strangely enough, has the same name. Let's call him William Wilson II. But while Wilson I is selfish, cruel, and deceitful, Wilson II becomes his moral shadow, always appearing to stop him from committing his worst deeds. Wilson I grows into a despicable young man, leaving a trail of chaos wherever he goes. At Eton, his reckless behavior deepens, and at Oxford, the most dissolute university in Europe, he cheats his classmates out of money in high-stakes card games. But each time he's about to go too far, Wilson II intervenes, ruining his schemes and fueling his hatred. The story reaches its climax in Rome, where Wilson I, drunk on arrogance, challenges Wilson II to a duel. Wilson I delivers the killing blow, only to see his doppelganger collapse into a mirror. He realizes, too late, that he hasn't killed another person. He's destroyed his own conscience. Poe drew inspiration for William Wilson from his own turbulent life. The boarding school in the story is based on Reverend Bransby's school in England, which Poe attended as a boy. The decadent universities in the tale echo the University of Virginia, where Poe's short time was marked by drinking, gambling, and debt. In fact, Poe's own struggles with morality and excess mirror those of his doomed protagonist. William Wilson isn't just a tale of doubles, it's a haunting exploration of guilt and self-destruction. Poe's genius lies in showing us that sometimes our greatest battles are fought within. The mystery of Marie Roget. Poe's detective takes on a real-life murder. Could fiction solve a real-life crime? Edgar Allan Poe's The Mystery of Marie Roget, published in 1842, dared to try. The story features C. Auguste Dupin, Poe's brilliant amateur detective, investigating the disappearance and death of Marie Roget, a Parisian shopgirl whose body is found floating in the Seine. But Marie isn't just a fictional character. Poe based her on Mary Cecilia Rogers, a New York cigar girl whose unsolved murder in 1841 shocked the nation. The press had a field day with Rogers's case, fueling public outrage with every new clue. But despite countless theories and suspects, her killer was never caught. Poe, fascinated by the case, promised his story would reveal the truth and even advance investigative methods. Using Dupin's analytical brilliance, Poe dissects the crime, weaving real details from the Mary Rogers case into the plot. He even updated the story as new clues emerged in the papers. When Poe republished the tale years later, he revised it again to align with the latest theories. While the mystery of Marie Roget didn't solve the case, it showcased Poe's revolutionary approach to detective fiction. He turned crime-solving into an art of logic and deduction, laying the groundwork for future literary detectives like Sherlock Holmes. Poe's tale endures as a fascinating blend of fact and fiction, proving that even unsolved mysteries can inspire unforgettable stories. Some Words with a Mummy, Poe's electrifying satire. What happens when ancient history meets modern arrogance? Edgar Allan Poe's Some Words with a Mummy, published in 1845, is a sharp and witty critique of society, disguised as a bizarre tale of science and resurrection. The story begins at a mummy unwrapping party, a real trend in Poe's day, where wealthy enthusiasts gathered to open ancient Egyptian coffins. At this particular event, a group of rowdy, heavy-drinking scientists takes things a step further. They decide to test the power of a voltaic pile, an early type of electric battery, by shocking the newly unwrapped mummy back to life. And to their astonishment, it works. The mummy, named Alamistachio, isn't what they expect. Far from being a primitive relic, he's intelligent, well-spoken, and unimpressed by the so-called advancements of the modern age. As the scientists boast about their achievements, Alamistachio calmly dismantles their claims, pointing out the flaws in their politics, architecture, and even medicine. The story flips the script, suggesting that ancient Egyptian society was far more advanced in many ways. Through this clever satire, Poe mocks the arrogance of the 19th century, highlighting how progress isn't always as impressive as it seems. The story's humor and biting social commentary make it stand out among Poe's works. Poe's fascination with Egypt likely began when he was just 14 years old, living near the Virginia state capitol. There he would have seen an actual mummy on display, a symbol of the growing fascination with ancient Egypt in his time. From Egyptian revival architecture to mummy unwrapping parties, America was captivated by the mysteries of the Nile. Some Words with a Mummy is more than just a strange and humorous tale. It's a timeless reminder that wisdom can come from the past, and hubris is often our greatest folly. The Fall of the House of Usher, published in 1839. In The Fall of the House of Usher, the mad Roderick Usher disposes of his twin sister Madeline by entombing her alive in the cellar of their ancestral home. Poe's inspiration for the insane Usher twins might have been two real-life twins, James Campbell Usher and Agnes Pye Usher. They were the children of Luke Noble Usher, an actor who performed with and was a close friend of Poe's actor mother, Eliza. Much as in the story, the real Usher twins are believed to have gone insane. The Cask of Amontillado, Poe's ultimate tale of revenge. Few stories deliver vengeance as chillingly as Edgar Allan Poe's The Cask of Amontillado, published in 1846. It's a dark and masterful tale of betrayal, arrogance, and poetic justice. The story begins with Montresor, who harbors a deep grudge against Fortunato, a wealthy wine connoisseur whose arrogance and insults have pushed Montresor to the brink. But Montresor isn't one for confrontation. His revenge will be cold, calculated, and horrifying. Under the guise of friendship, Montresor lures Fortunato into the catacombs beneath his estate with the promise of tasting a rare vintage, Amontillado. Fortunato, drunk and blinded by his pride, follows eagerly, never suspecting the trap that awaits him. As they descend deeper into the damp, bone-laden tunnels, the air grows heavy with foreboding. Montresor's flattery keeps Fortunato oblivious, until it's too late. Reaching a secluded alcove, Montresor chains Fortunato to the wall and begins to seal him in with bricks. Fortunato laughs at first, thinking it's a twisted joke. But as the wall rises, so does his panic. His laughter turns to pleas, then to desperate screams. Montresor, unmoved, completes the wall and leaves Fortunato entombed alive, his cries fading into silence. The brilliance of the story lies in Montresor's chilling final line. For the half of a century no mortal has disturbed them, in pace requiescat. His revenge is complete, and he has never been caught. Poe's inspiration for this macabre tale might have come from rumors he heard while stationed at Fort Independence, of a soldier entombed alive within the fort's walls. But the story also seems personal. Critics suggest Fortunato was based on Poe's real-life rival, Thomas Dunn English. The two shared a bitter feud, trading public insults and even physical blows. While English mocked Poe in forgettable novels and articles, Poe had the last laugh. The Cask of Amontillado became a timeless classic, while English's works faded into obscurity. Poe's tale endures as a masterclass in suspense and storytelling, a reminder of how pride and vengeance can lead to the most chilling ends. The Oblong Box, Poe's tale of love and secrets at sea. What secret would you risk everything to protect? Edgar Allan Poe's The Oblong Box, published in 1844, is a chilling tale of grief, deception, and the lengths one man will go to for love. The story follows an unnamed narrator aboard a ship traveling from Charleston to New York City. Among the passengers is his old college friend, Mr. Wyatt, who is accompanied by his wife, 2 sisters, and a mysterious oblong box. The narrator is baffled by Wyatt's odd behavior and the secrecy surrounding the box. What could it contain? A priceless painting? Treasure? When a storm hits and the ship begins to sink, the mystery deepens. Rather than seek safety in a lifeboat, Wyatt clings to the box and is swept away by the waves. The narrator survives, but Wyatt's sacrifice leaves him haunted. Only later does the grim truth come to light. The woman pretending to be Wyatt's wife was actually his servant. Wyatt's real wife had tragically died before the journey, and her body, preserved in salt to mask the odor, was hidden inside the oblong box. Wyatt had been transporting her secretly because the superstitious crew refused to allow a corpse aboard. Poe may have drawn inspiration from the sensational 1841 case of John C. Colt, who murdered a man, stuffed his body into a box of salt, and shipped it to New Orleans. The gruesome discovery of the decomposing body aboard a ship captured headlines, and it's easy to see how Poe transformed this macabre event into a tale of tragic devotion. The Oblong Box is more than a mystery. It's a haunting exploration of love, loss, and the secrets we carry, reminding us that some burdens are too heavy to bear, even at sea. The Telltale Heart, Poe's tale of madness and guilt. What happens when guilt becomes unbearable? Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart, published in 1843, is a chilling descent into paranoia and madness. The story is narrated by an unnamed protagonist who insists he isn't insane, despite being driven to murder by the sight of an old man's vulture-like eye. Obsessed and unhinged, the narrator meticulously plans the crime, watching the old man night after night until the time is right. When he finally strikes, he smothers the man and hides the body under the floorboards. But his supposed calm quickly unravels. As he recounts his story, the narrator begins to hear a sound, a faint rhythmic thumping. He convinces himself it's the old man's heart still beating beneath the floorboards, growing louder and louder until it overwhelms him. In a frenzy, he confesses, screaming for the police to tear up the floor and reveal his guilt. Poe's inspiration for this tale may have come from real-life crimes. One possible source is the 1830 murder of Joseph White in Salem, Massachusetts. In the trial, prosecutor Daniel Webster described how guilt consumes a murderer, saying, "The secret which the murderer possesses soon comes to possess him." Another possible inspiration is the 1840 trial of James Wood, accused of murdering his daughter. Wood's plea of insanity hinged on whether his calm demeanor masked madness, a theme echoed in Poe's narrator. Interestingly, Poe covered the Wood trial as a reporter, and may have drawn on the case when crafting The Telltale Heart. The story's themes of guilt, madness, and self-destruction reflect Poe's fascination with the darker corners of the human psyche. The Telltale Heart remains one of Poe's most iconic works, a masterclass in suspense and psychological horror. It's a reminder that sometimes our greatest tormentors come from within. The Pit and the Pendulum, Poe's nightmare of survival. Few stories capture the terror of helplessness like Edgar Allan Poe's The Pit and the Pendulum. Published in 1842, this tale throws readers into the horrors of the Spanish Inquisition, where survival is a battle of wits against insurmountable odds. The story begins with an unnamed narrator sentenced to death by Inquisition judges. He awakens in utter darkness, disoriented and terrified. Exploring his surroundings, he discovers a bottomless pit in the center of the chamber, one misstep away from a fatal plunge. But this is only the beginning of his torment. As the narrator clings to sanity, the next phase of his torture begins. A massive, razor-sharp pendulum descends from the ceiling, swinging closer with each pass. Bound and unable to escape, he uses his ingenuity to attract rats with food remnants, convincing the ravenous creatures to chew through his restraints. He escapes just in time as the pendulum slices the air where he once lay. But the Inquisition isn't done. The walls of the chamber begin to heat and close in, forcing him toward the yawning pit. Just as all hope seems lost, salvation arrives. French soldiers, led by General Lassalle, storm the Inquisition's stronghold. The narrator is pulled from the brink, rescued as the walls collapse behind him. Poe drew inspiration from historical accounts of the Spanish Inquisition, infamous for its brutal torture methods. Established in 1232 and expanded by Spain's rulers in 1478, the Inquisition targeted heretics, political enemies, and anyone who threatened its power. Victims were subjected to unimaginable horrors, with their property confiscated to fund the monarchy. Poe likely read Thomas Dick's The Philosophy of Religion, which described the instruments of torture found by French soldiers during the Peninsular War. Poe combined history with his vivid imagination, creating a chamber of horrors complete with a deadly pendulum, fiery walls, and a bottomless pit, all to plunge readers into the narrator's terror. The Pit and the Pendulum isn't just a tale of survival, it's a psychological masterpiece. Poe reminds us that even in the face of relentless darkness, the human will to survive can shine through. Berenice, Poe's chilling obsession with the macabre. Have you ever been haunted by a single terrifying detail? Edgar Allan Poe was, and it birthed his first horror story, Berenice. Published in 1835, this chilling tale explores obsession, madness, and the unthinkable. Our protagonist, Egeus, is a man consumed by a peculiar fixation, his cousin Berenice's teeth. Berenice, once vibrant and full of life, succumbs to a mysterious illness, leaving her frail and unrecognizable. Yet even as her health fades, her teeth remain unnervingly perfect. Egeus can't look away. They haunt his thoughts, filling his waking moments and dreams until they become an all-consuming mania. When Berenice tragically dies, Egeus is overcome with grief, or so it seems. In truth, he is entirely fixated on the idea of possessing her teeth. In a fevered haze, he digs up her grave to claim them. But here's the horrifying twist. As he holds the extracted teeth in triumph, he hears the muffled screams of Berenice. She had been buried alive. The story ends with Egeus realizing the depths of his madness. But the true horror lies in the grotesque act and its implications. Was it an accident, or had he truly crossed the line into insanity? Poe's inspiration for this grisly tale may have come from real-life events. In Baltimore, where he lived, a scandal erupted when grave robbers were caught stealing teeth from corpses to make dentures. Poe even claimed the story was born from a bet to see if he could craft something effective from such a bizarre subject. With Berenice, Poe set the stage for his mastery of horror. It's a tale that reminds us how obsession can lead us to dark, unthinkable places. The Premature Burial. Poe's nightmare of living death. Imagine waking up to find yourself buried alive. For the protagonist of Edgar Allan Poe's The Premature Burial, published in 1844, this is no abstract fear. It's a waking nightmare. The story explores the terror of being mistakenly declared dead and interred while still alive, a fear not uncommon in Poe's time. The narrator suffers from seizures that leave him in a death-like state. Obsessed with the possibility of premature burial, he takes drastic precautions, designing escape-proof coffins, refusing to leave his home, and surrounding himself with people sworn to verify he's truly dead before any burial. Poe taps into a fear grounded in reality. In the 19th century, when embalming was rare and people were buried quickly, horrifying tales of mistaken burials were reported in newspapers. Some victims were even rescued after their screams were heard from underground. This fear spurred the invention of safety coffins, outfitted with devices like bells or escape mechanisms to help the accidentally buried signal for help. Christian Henry Eisenbrandt even patented a life-preserving coffin in 1843, designed to spring open with the slightest movement. But despite these innovations, the fear persisted, fueled in part by Poe's vivid stories. In The Premature Burial, the narrator eventually discovers that his fears have consumed his life, preventing him from truly living. The story ends with a warning. The true horror lies not in death, but in being paralyzed by the fear of it. Poe's tale captured the anxieties of his era, helping to solidify the cultural obsession with premature burial. This phobia lingered well into the late 19th century, inspiring groups like the Society for the Prevention of People Being Buried Alive, which proposed waiting until bodies started to smell dead before burial. The premature burial is a haunting reflection on mortality, and the lengths will go to avoid the unimaginable, proving once again Poe's mastery of psychological horror. Pollution, Poe's foray into drama and betrayal. Did you know Edgar Allan Poe once tried his hand at writing a play? In 1836, Poe published Pollution, his only attempt at drama. Though unfinished, the surviving text is a gripping tale of jealousy, manipulation, and murder rooted in real-life scandal. The plot centers on a cunning and jealous woman who convinces one man to murder another for her. It's a dark and dramatic exploration of betrayal and revenge, but the play was never completed. Poe published parts of it in the Southern Literary Messenger and later included it in a collection of his poetry. The story of Pollution was inspired by the infamous Kentucky tragedy of 1825. Colonel Solomon P. Sharp, a politician, seduced a young woman named Anna Cook, fathered her child, and then refused to marry her. Cook, humiliated and furious, married another man, Jeroboam O. Beauchamp, and convinced him to take revenge. Beauchamp attempted to challenge Sharp to a duel, but Sharp refused. Undeterred, Beauchamp went to Sharp's house at night and stabbed him to death. The sensational case captured national headlines, and Poe likely read about it while working as a literary critic. While Pollution remains incomplete, it showcases Poe's ambition to experiment with different literary forms. The play reflects his fascination with themes of passion, revenge, and moral corruption, themes he would explore masterfully in his later works. Though unfinished, Pollution offers a glimpse into Poe's creative process and his ability to draw inspiration from real-life events to craft tales of intense drama and emotion.